Emma from Garden Spot Nursery. Welcome to Garden Basics. Today we're going to show you how to make a planter design called a succulent pot-in-a-pot. So if you want to follow along with me for this design, things you're going to need: at least 2 pots, an outer pot like this, and at least one to go inside of it, some top dressing to dress up your design, potting soil, and of course your succulents. A little quick briefing on succulents. They don't require a lot of water. They prefer bright, warm light, and they're really easily propagated, which makes them really great for this design. In the world of succulent design, we have 3 categories that we like to call spillers, fillers, and thrillers. And that just is something you want to make sure to incorporate one of each into your succulent designs, or at least be conscious of it. And what that refers to is, these are your thrillers, the tall ones. You've got your fillers, these low ground covers that'll fill up your pot, and your spillers that are going to trail over the sides. That's just going to add a little bit of intrigue to your design. And particularly in this design, we don't use a ton of thrillers just because we're trying to create that 3D effect of looking down on it rather than looking at it from the side. But the cool thing about this design is you can actually create 2 designs in one. I've created one example for you here. It's really simple with the 2 terracotta pots, very inexpensive. I've just added a little bit of moss there on the bottom to create sort of a grass effect, as if my pot is sitting on the ground. But today we're going to work with this bonsai planter, and bonsai planters are great for succulents because they don't like a lot of water, so it offers them an opportunity to drain. And it's really great for this project because it's a square, so it's going to look like a picture frame when we're done here. And I've picked out these 3 glass containers just to kind of shake things up. We're going to see how that goes. And this one's actually cracked, so this is a great opportunity to reuse broken pottery, broken terracotta that you have, or old teacups that you don't drink of anymore. We are going to start off here by filling our outer planter with potting soil. You want to give it a little bit of room because we're going to cram it full of succulents. So a little bit of extra space on the top there. And the next thing we're going to do is place our inner pots and position them how we want them. Now I'm working with glass ones, so I'm going to fill them first. I've got some forest moss here. I just thought that doing these clear ones, I've never done this before, but I thought having a clear planter would be kind of cool. So I'm putting some beach glass on top of the moss, kind of shoving it into the potting soil so it stays put. And I'm going to do that with all 3 because they're little. Okay, so this is what it looks like afterwards. I've got them all set in there. I think they look kind of cute. Just make sure they're really nice and set down in there. And the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead with my thrillers. So I have this really interesting one here. This is a water miser hen and chick. So it's a special sempervivum succulent. And it's kind of already doing that thing I like for this design of going in 2 directions, upwards and sideways. So I'm gonna try to incorporate this one. The fun thing you can kind of do with succulents as you're planting them is kind of take them apart. So particularly the hen and chick varieties, which is anything that looks like this and has sort of a rosetta with a bunch of little babies coming off, you can just break off the pups so they're easier to work with. And that's really key in any succulent design, but particularly for this pot-in-pot that we're doing. Just gives you a little bit more ability to be creative. See how I'm just sort of placing them around and making it look like they're coming out of the smaller glass containers. So I think I mentioned these as thrillers, but I'm actually using them more as fillers at this point. And I've got some fun sedum here that I'm going to use as spillers. So we're breaking up the roots, breaking up the soil a little bit. These also you can break apart, so you just rip it. It's really helpful for doing things like this, where I'm actually going to tuck this one in between the two glass containers, so it's really spilling there. It looks like it's spilling out of one or both of them, but it's just in between. I think I'm gonna put one of those on the opposite side as well. And you can change around your design. You can move the pots as you do it. You know, if you get inspired, I'm kind of winging this here, so. This is what it looks like so far. Let's see, let's put in some of these thrillers. Another great thing about this style, this design, is that you can cram a lot more plants into one planter than you normally would. So these little glass containers would probably not hold this many succulents, but we're gonna make them look really, really full and fun. So that said, I'm gonna take this tall guy and put it sort of behind to the back a little bit. So at this point, we're not really on top of the inner glass containers at all. They're just sort of there to create the illusion. I need to break up these roots a little bit more. And when I'm putting my thrillers in this design, I'm actually planting it at a little bit of an angle, just the slightest angle, because it's gonna grow back to pointing north, but I put it at a slight angle here, so it creates that illusion that it's growing this way instead of this way. So we've done that. I'm actually gonna take one little bit off of this one and put him over to the side so they kind of match. I like when it's a little bit off center, so we've got some more of this trailing sedum over here than here. This is a little bushier than this one. And now I'm gonna take these fun little hens and chicks that are pink to throw in some extra color, and I'm just gonna pop them all apart and use them to fill in all the little gaps. So I'm gonna break them down literally to just the little pup and just fill in every single gap, because that's kind of the fun of this design. Make them look like they're stacked on top of the inner planters, the smaller little glass planters that I'm using here. And you can see in this design that I've done here that they're really stacked up top. It's actually, this one's about to bloom. Oh, it has bloomed. But they're really, really stacked on top. This many succulents would never go in a pot this size, but it creates a really cool visual look. So I'll show you kind of the step-by-step, but I'm just shoving all the little hens and chicks in there. I think I'm gonna use this whole planter of them just because we've got such a wide design here. So where this design came from was actually an Instagram trend. And I think that says a lot about it, because first of all, anything that's created for Instagram is created to be visual appealing for 1 second for that photo. And so, of course, these are gonna outgrow the inner pot. They're gonna grow over the sides. But that is actually my favorite thing about this design, because you can do so much with that. You can break these off and repropagate them to create new designs. You can take this pot out and just let this be a standalone design on its own. There's really so much you can do. Finishing up with these, they don't have to be perfect. The fun thing about these, particularly these hen and chicks, but most succulents, is they don't have a very deep root. And sometimes they just have one little sort of peg looking root that you can just shove into the soil, and it's a really easy planting process. So I'm really just setting these all over and scattering them around the design. can really get carried away with this. So here's the finished product planted. Did not take me very long, and I think it looks super cute. I'm just gonna add a little bit of top dressing. I've got some of this glass that I used in this design, but I think with this one, the way it's looking, I'm just gonna use some pea gravel, or these little pebbles. Just making sure to cover every inch of soil. And you can leave the soil uncovered if that's the look you're going for. You don't have to make a base for it like I did in this one. You can just let it float in space. This one I kind of set directly on the bottom, so it looks like it's sitting in the picture frame there, but this is the finished product. I really like the way it turned out. I'm glad I tried to mix it up with those glass containers. I think it looks really cool. So thank you for joining me to create these designs today. Make sure you stop by the nursery and check these out, and check out all the sedums and succulents we have for you in pottery so you can make your own design.